Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Susan Valakis, and I'm the Training Development Coordinator at Now. And as such, I bring you these webinars on the third Thursday of each month. If you've missed any of them, you can find replays on our website, nowfoods.com/webinars, or on the Now YouTube channel. If you have questions during today's presentation, please use the chat bubble that you see on your screen, submit your question, and we will respond directly to you with an answer by email. So today's presentation will last about 1 hour, and it is presented by one of Now's very own, Neil Levin, who serves as our Senior Nutrition Education Manager at Now. He's also a nationally board-certified clinical nutritionist with a Diplomat in Advanced Nutritional Laboratory Assessment, in case you were ever wondering what the DANLA stands for. There you go. Neil is also a professional member of the International and American Associations of Clinical Nutritionists and also a member of the Scientific Council of the National Clinical Nutrition Certification Board. He serves on the board of directors of the Mid-American Health Organization, or MAHO as you may know it. And for our team at Now, he provides a wealth of knowledge when it comes to nutrition and dietary ingredients. And as usual, Neil has some excellent information to share with us today. So with that, please join me in welcoming Neil Levin. Welcome, Neil.
Hi. Thank you, Sue. And we are going to be talking about the joint health products in the Now catalog. So without further ado, just my credentials. We're not going to linger on those. All right. So we know that we need joints related to bone, so joint and bone health nutrients. The need for them increases with age. And as we get older, it's harder to absorb nutrients. So higher amounts, better forms tend to be needed to make sure we get enough nutrition to support these structures in the body. So looking at joint structures, on the left you see a healthy joint, and on the right you see one that's aging. And you could see cartilage is weakening there, the articular cartilage on the bone ends. You could see the synovial fluid is starting to get overburdened, and as we age, it becomes harder to maintain that. There's more pressure on these areas and more need for nutrients. So let's look at what some experts say are the nutritional options. First of all, a diet high in certain animal fats can be implicated in some joint problems. So people who suffer from joint problems are recommended to reduce their intake of most, but not all, animal fats. It's still important to consume omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats. We're talking about the CLA, GLA, and omega-6, and the fish or the plant sources, flax, walnut, chia, on the omega-3. Now, it's important to remember, if you're taking the plant sources of omega-3, you need to take magnesium with them to make sure you can convert them into EPA and DHA. Now, we know that joint problems are also associated with digestive issues, and immune cells can attack undigested proteins in the lower guts and the bloodstream. Immune cells recognizing and attacking these proteins from foods can actually lead to food sensitivities because of poor digestion. Now, the Arthritis Foundation recommends the 12 best foods for joint health. You see on the left fish, which is omega-3, soy foods because of omega-3, and soybean oil, by the way. Oils, extra virgin olive oil and walnut oil, cherries, low-fat dairy, broccoli, green tea because of the EGCG component, citrus fruits, whole grains, beans, garlic, and nuts. So these are all things that are associated with maintaining joint health. And nuts, you might have some omega-3 there too from walnuts and things like that. So there might be a connection again where omega-3 ties in. Now, the Joint Health magazine also listed the best and the worst foods for joints. And you'll see some very similar recommendations. Nuts, yogurt, fruit, whole grains, and veggies on the positive side. Chips, potatoes, which could be both potatoes. Cool drinks, they're really talking about sodas and sweetened drinks. Red meats, again, the fatty cuts, it's the animal fat thing again. And processed meats, again, fats, but also nitrates and other additives in there are negative. So just some general dietary principles. And I like to break up the joint health category into both functional and structural support products, because one helps with short-term movement, mobility, flexibility, and the other helps with maintaining the actual joint structures over longer periods of time. So you need one from column A, one from column B is the message here. Now, studies do show relevant nutrients maintain healthy bone and joint structures. And remember, the joints are where the bones meet. They're the space between the bones and the structures between the bones. So there is an interrelationship between bone and joint health. And I've often had to give interviews where they're both the topic and not one or the other. There's some relationship. So maintaining these during vulnerable times requires the right nutrition. Some nutrients will support that long-term structural integrity, and some will support the short-term transient relief and mobility. So let's look at the structural joint support, the nutritional options. How do we maintain the joint structures? What nutrients are needed? And when we're looking at that, we're looking at some of the nutrient distribution in healthy joints. There's type 2 collagen on the bone ends, the articular collagen. There's chondroitin sulfate has a role there too, and hyaluronic acid has a role in helping to build and maintain synovial fluid, which is the water balloon type cushion within the joints. Helps us bear weight on the joints and gives us that strength in that intermediate area. So cartilage is a connective tissue that supports structural support. It's made out of protein, and the protein is largely collagen, but not all. There's also sugars and other structures, so it's part of our healthy joint structures. Now, structural joint support, one of the main nutrients we need is glucosamine. I'm sure everyone's heard of glucosamine. It's a basic building block for joint and connective tissues. It's a building block of both glycosaminoglycans, known as GAGs or GAGs, which are also known as mucopolysaccharides, is the older term for that, and proteoglycans. So these are the components of the joint tissue. They promote water retention in the joints. They give both lubrication and shock absorbing properties to the joint. Long-term use of glucosamine helps to maintain the spacing of the joints. The spacing between the bones is what we're talking about. And the traditional amount that's used in studies is 500 milligrams per 50 pounds of body weight. And you can get glucosamine from either shellfish or vegan sources. Now, it's important to note that now has actually developed the official method for testing glucosamine. So all the companies who are our competitors selling glucosamine, they're theoretically using the official method for glucosamine that we developed and published, the folks from Now Method Development Laboratory. Now, glucosamine sulfate is the main form you'll find in supplements. Also, there's a hydrochloride form that does not have sulfate, and it's almost as effective. And you're going to see when we're talking about different products that all contain glucosamine, they'll have similar information as to what I just gave you. Glucosamine is needed to build the GAGs and proteoglycans, which are components of cartilage. and they attract water to form a joint cushion, lubrication, and shock absorption. I'm not going to tell you that about every product that we have with glucosamine, but you'll see that on the slides because the slides could be used for other purposes. This is the glucosamine sulfate by itself, and it's from a glucosamine potassium sulfate complex. And the reason why there's potassium or sodium in glucosamine products is because it's in a salt form that makes it more soluble and bioavailable. So the potassium chloride is used rather than sodium chloride in this particular instance as a way to solubilize and help the bioavailability of the glucosamine. So your recommendation is 2 capsules 1 to 2 times a day. Again, it tends to refer to body weight. Someone who's 150 pounds might take 2. Someone who's 300 pounds might take 4 a day, that kind of thing. We also have a 1,000 milligram glucosamine hydrochloride. And the difference with the hydrochloride is that you will need to add sulfur to it to make these complex cartilage type products in the body. So you'll need MSM or sulfur containing amino acids, or eating garlic, or things, onions, things that contain sulfur, to get that sulfur from another source if it's not provided in the supplement itself. So glucosamine hydrochloride can also come in from 2 sources. This is the traditional source from shellfish. We have a couple of products that are using a vegan glucosamine hydrochloride. Those are the vegan products, the glucosamine MSM vegan form and the glucosamine itself in a vegan form. And I'll show you those products a little later. But there are 2 alternative sources, and the most common one is shellfish, though. So here's your glucosamine vegetarian. So you'll notice it says vegetarian, vegan friendly. It has the green grown logo on the front, and it also lists that in the supplement facts. So it's vegan friendly. They use non-GMO corn fed to a fungal culture that produces the glucosamine, which is then isolated, purified, and sold as glucosamine. So an alternative for vegetarians, vegans, and those who are shellfish allergic. So when we're looking at another product for structural joint support is chondroitin sulfate. It's another GAG, glycosaminoglycans, which promotes water retention again. The traditional source is beef trachea. So 1,200 milligram is the traditional amount used in the clinical studies, and it is something that supports the articular cartilage and other structures in the joints. Now you can get chondroitin sulfate from other sources, shark, for example, fish, but the thing is, this is a very complex molecule, and there are differences in the ratios of components in them, so they work a little differently. So that's why we helped develop the method that's used for chondroitin testing, which I'll show you in a minute. But also, ours was the first method that distinguished between different sources. So you know if it's going to be from beef, from shark, from fish, from whatever source, pig. So we can specify the beef, which is the one that was used in the studies. Now, the GAGs, there's a little more information about that, also known as mucopolysaccharides. It's a repeating 2-sugar unit that is a sugar and an amino sugar. It can have over 100 different sugars that are sulfated in different positions. So you can see it's a very large, very complex molecule that's produced in the body. And it's usually attached to proteins as part of a proteoglycan, and it gives the elasticity to cartilage. And here's one of the studies that we published in conjunction with some other scientists, And it was actually, there was a second validation study as well. So you could see now Foods is one of the lead researchers on this, and it was a contract with the National Institutes of Health to determine the best testing for products like glucosamine sulfate. And this helped us determine which source of animal the glucosamine sulfate came from. So we helped develop the first method to distinguish between sources so we know if it matches the studies and is going to have the same efficacy. Now here's the glucosamine sulfate 600 milligram by itself. The recommendation is 2 caps 1 to 3 times a day. And you'll see the same information we talked about earlier. And MSM is another structural joint support nutrient. It's a sulfur-bearing compound. It's actually present in a number of foods that contain sulfur. And we need sulfur for all our cells, and it's indispensable for life. So MSM helps us to produce products that contain sulfur in the body, including connective tissue, which includes articular cartilage and even skin, hair even. We also use sulfur for liver detoxification and to make sulfate compounds, including how we internally make glucosamine sulfate and chondroitin sulfate in our bodies. Now, MSM contains about 34% elemental sulfur. It is a main biological form of organic sulfur storage. It also helps support immune response within the joints and those tissues. We need it for healthy hair, skin, and nails, and it is not related to sulfa drugs, which is a category of drugs that people tend to have a higher amount of allergies to. They're not allergic to sulfa, to sulfur itself, the mineral. They're allergic to other components. And it has chemical links to make these connective tissues and supports healthy cartilage anywhere in the body. Here's our 3 MSM products. It's also used in conjunction with other ingredients in some combination formulas, which we'll touch on in a later section. So you can get 1,000 milligram in a capsule, 1,500 milligram in a tablet, or you can get the powder, which is a little more variable, the dosing. And here's your supplement facts and usage on them. You know, suggested to take 2 to 3 grams a day would be your general recommendation. And another structural joint support nutrient is hyaluronic acid, or HA. It's again in every tissue of the body, but there's higher amounts in connective tissues, including skin and cartilage. It's one of the most important constituents of joint fluid. It serves as a lubricant and plays a role in resisting compressive forces. In other words, think of the knee that's holding up weight, or you're lifting weights with the arms. Where the joints come together, there's compression on the joint when there's weight on part of it. And that's having the cushioning in there. It's kind of like if your tires on your car are full, they can hold up better and hold the car, and you're not hitting every pothole and feeling it as much, etc., if they're properly filled. Hyaluronic acid is also known to attract moisture, so it has a role in skin health. Some people taking hyaluronic acid might notice that they're getting some benefit for the skin in terms of the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles diminishing because of the skin plumping up, because it's able to hold more moisture, which is a good thing. So hyaluronic acid is another GAG, important component of the synovial fluid in the joints. Again, water retention, compressive forces, and it tends to decline with age. So we have different formulas. This is the hyaluronic acid with MSM, and it gives you 100 milligrams in 2 caps, 50 milligram per cap, as you see on the front of the label. And the suggestion is to take those 2 capsules once or twice a day, which would also give you 2 a day, would give you 1,800 milligrams of MSM, which is a significant amount of MSM. Now this is the 100 milligram double strength hyaluronic acid. This is actually a product I helped formulate. And adding alpha lipoic acid, grapeseed extract, and proline have some benefits. Proline is one of the main proteins in collagen and connective tissues. So that was added for that reason. Alpha lipoic acid and grapeseed extract were added to help protect the collagen tissues, which from free radical damage, which has a significant impact on those tissues. So that's why they're being used. Now, all of our hyaluronic acid is fermented material, and it is not extracted from rooster comb. It's all vegetarian, vegan friendly. We also have the liquid hyaluronic acid, which has some other ingredients, the proline and lysine. And lysine is another ingredient that is responsible to signal for the creation of collagen and also for the repair of damaged collagen. So lysine has a role along with proline in building and maintaining collagen tissues, whether in the joints or the arteries or anywhere else in the body. We've added some other vitamins there, the A, D, and E, which have roles in skin health as well, and to some extent to joint health. So this is a delicious berry flavor. There's actually a bottle in my refrigerator. You can take a tablespoon once or twice a day. It tastes good directly, but you can also mix it with water or juice. But there's highest connections in the skin and cartilage. And by the way, there tend to be more hyaluronic acid receptors in the mouth than in other parts of the body. And that's why a liquid formula might actually be superior to taking capsules. So we also have combination products for the joint support. And this is just a reminder that now did develop and publish methods for glucosamine and chondroitin, and these are some of the lab results from those tests. Now, here's glucosamine chondroitin with MSM. You can see this has significant amounts. It's 1.1 gram of glucosamine sulfate. It's 1.2 grams of chondroitin sulfate and 300 milligrams of MSM. So we don't need to repeat the benefits of those ingredients. This is a liquid glucosamine chondroitin MSM. And again, if you take twice a day, you're going to get 1,500 milligrams of glucosamine hydrochloride. You're going to get 1,200 milligrams of chondroitin sulfate, and you'll get 300 milligrams of MSM. And we've added vitamin C. Vitamin C has a very important role in both building and maintaining collagen and cartilage. Manganese also has a role in these joint structures in addition. Now this is glucosamine chondroitin in veg capsules with trace minerals. This has the trace mineral concentrate, a significant amount, 400 milligrams. And again, if you take 2 capsules twice daily, you'll get 1,500 milligrams of glucosamine hydrochloride and 1,200 milligrams of chondroitin sulfate plus 800 milligrams of trace minerals. Trace minerals tend to have a beneficial effect on all the tissues in the body. The extra strength glucosamine chondroitin, 2 tablets a day give you the 1,500 milligrams of glucosamine. This is the sulfate form now, along with 1.2 grams, 1,200 milligrams of chondroitin sulfate. So this is double the amount in our regular strength product. We also have glucosamine with MSM that has a tiny bit of chondroitin sulfate in there as well. 2 capsules give you 1,100 milligrams of glucosamine sulfate, 500 milligrams of MSM, and 50 milligrams of chondroitin sulfate. And if you take it twice a day, you can double those amounts. So this is primarily glucosamine sulfate with MSM. We also have a vegetarian glucosamine MSM, which in 3 capsules a day give you 1,500 milligrams of glucosamine hydrochloride and 1,000 milligrams of MSM. Now, I'll mention the MSM. There are different methods of production, and one of them uses paper mill waste cooked for a long time, uses tons of energy, lots of toxins. That is not the method that we use. Ours is extracted from high sulfur natural gas and removing the sulfur from natural gas, which actually cleans up the natural gas to some extent and uses a far less energy, much more eco-friendly. Now, joint support is a pretty broad combination of products. Vitamin C, manganese, and copper are used. Manganese and copper support SOD, one of the protective enzymes in the body, as well as other enzymes that act on different tissues. You know, there are literally hundreds of things those minerals do in the body. We also have zinc, B vitamin complex, and boswellia. Boswellia is a trademarked form of boswellia, which is frankincense. That's the form that is intended for internal use. Glucosamine is in there as well, and boswellia and sea cucumber. Sea cucumber is a sea animal. It looks like a cucumber, but it's an animal, and it is a source of natural chondroitin sulfate. So this is actually a fairly popular formula a lot of people like to use. We have other options though. Collagen and gelatin. And we're looking at collagen and gelatin. Again, these are areas where they're used in the joints. We know that antioxidant vitamins like vitamin C are important both for the creation and maintenance of collagen that we need for connective tissue. And when we're looking at beef gelatin, hydrolyzed beef gelatin is very similar to gelatin. It's a hydrolyzed form of beef gelatin. Collagen is not edible. It's not digestible. So when you're buying a gelatin product or a collagen product, it is typically going to be hydrolyzed or broken down so that it's digestible. So you'll usually see something about hydrolyzed on these products, with one exception we'll talk about. So this is beef gelatin, just a way to get gelatin, which is very similar to collagen. It has the same nutrients as collagen. Collagen peptides is kind of a more modern way to do that. When you make collagen or gelatin, you're typically using it from beef hides. So you know, there's slaughterhouse byproducts really. And bovine collagen from cows contains type 1 and type 3 collagen, which do have roles in bone, joint, and skin health. It's not the articular cartilage, which is type 2 collagen, but there are other collagens and connective tissues in the joints. Collagen is about 30% of the body's protein, more than muscles, by the way. And hydrolyzed collagen supports the bones, joints, skin as well. Now, our sources are from areas that are not subject to BSE, the bovine spongiform encephalopathy, which is like mad cow disease, and you know, thoroughly tested. We also have collagen joint support powder, which to the hydrolyzed collagen we add glucosamine sulfate and MSM. So it's a more complete formula for the joints. It has glucosamine sulfate, 1.1 gram, 1100 milligram per 1 heaping tablespoon, which is about 10.5 grams, 400 milligrams of MSM to support it. We also have a newer product, the multi-collagen, which is 3 sources. Now you can get type 1 and 3 collagen from beef, as well as type 2 collagen from chicken bone, and additional type 1 collagen from fish. This is from hormone-free cattle, and it's from fish, of course. And they do not use hormones on chickens, by the way, commercially in the United States. Shark cartilage. It's a controversial product, but I'll tell you some of the pains that we take to make sure that it's eco-friendly harvesting. It is a source of naturally occurring mucopolysaccharides, the GAGs, which lubricate and cushion against shock. Also, there's calcium, so shark cartilage also helps with bone health as well. And there are unique properties in the human body to shark cartilage over other forms of collagen or cartilage. There's a unique sulfation ratio compared to the bovine, chicken, or porcine sources. And that means that the chondroitin sulfate is absorbed and maintained in the joints better than other sources, helping with joint health and flexibility. And it also helps to maintain the structural integrity of the joint tissue. So there are roles for it in human health. Now, this is the product we have with it. It is not from shark fins. It is from the backbones. It is from a species that is not CITES listed. That means it is not an endangered species. It is processed from Marine Stewardship Council certified fisheries. They are well-managed fisheries. It's specifically the spiny dogfish shark, which is locally abundant in certain areas. There's a USDA certificate required for it, and we thoroughly test it, and it does not use solvents or bleaches or chemical processing. So it's as clean as possible. It's as environmentally friendly harvested as possible. But we are not a vegetarian vegan company. We do sell animal products, including fish products and sea cucumber and other things from the sea. So this fits in with that and our mission of providing value in products and services that empower people to lead healthier lives. We do sell many products that are alternatives for people who are vegetarian, vegan, or prefer other sources. And we're happy for them to buy them. Now there's another collagen product called BioCell Collagen. This is a trademark ingredient, and it contains the hydrolyzed type 2 collagen, as well as hyaluronic acid and chondroitin sulfate all together. It's made from chicken sternal cartilage that's free from hormones and antibiotics. It contains type 2 collagen, including chondroitin sulfate and hyaluronic acid. And cartilage does not contain blood vessels or lymph products or nerves that can have diseases and impurities, including in cows, mad cow, but this is obviously a chicken product. So it's hydrolyzed collagen peptides and naturally contains, not added, chondroitin sulfate and hyaluronic acid. It is not a blend. It promotes active joints, youthful-looking skin, and healthy connective tissues. There's 7 human clinical trials that support its efficacy, and it's made in the USA and Germany. So you can promote healthy joint function, comfortable movement, and strong connective tissue while maintaining healthy, normal moisture levels in the skin as it ages, which would largely be a function of the hyaluronic acid component. And clinically, we've seen it can help reduce facial fine lines, wrinkles, and crow's feet. Again, that's largely due to the hyaluronic acid drawing moisture and reducing facial skin dryness and scaling, increasing skin elasticity, which would have a lot to do with the chondroitin sulfate component, increases the content in the skin of collagen and hyaluronic acid, and 2 grams is effective daily for joint health, 1 gram for skin benefits. If you're taking the 2 grams for joint, of course, you also get the skin benefits. So this is what the product looks like. I recommended 2 capsules daily, clinically validated. Now, there's also a category called functional joint support, and here's some of the nutritional options. One of them is Celadrin. It is a fatty acid complex from beef fat. If any of you remember CMO, cereal acetylmyristolate, which was sold decades ago for joint health, it's primarily a source of CMO. It's shown to support healthy joints, easily absorbed by the body, again, might reduce the appearance of fine wrinkles by supporting collagen and elastin. We've added 300 milligrams per serving. It's a 3-capsule serving of MSM. So again, supporting formation of collagen and other sulfur-containing products such as cysteine that can be produced in the body. Now, Aquamin red mineral algae is a very interesting material. I have formulated a number of products with it. I have other formulators in our company. It's a calcified seaweed from the coast of Iceland. It's actually processed in southern Ireland, County Cork. It's a source of calcium, magnesium, and 72 trace minerals, but they're from the ocean. As a multi-mineral matrix, they work together and boost the action of calcium, magnesium, more than just an additive effect. Now, it is a calcium carbonate, but it's very, very different from mined minerals, from rock powders. And that has to do with, as these pictures show, the material itself contains a honeycomb structure that is porous. So the structure adds to its benefits in the body. So it has a totally different structure and the way that it's absorbed in the body than a mined mineral like calcium carbonate from dolomite or some rock powder. Now, it is shown to help preserve bone structure and strength even on a high-fat Western diet, helping maintain healthy bone density, mineralization, and maturization of bone cells. It's low in heavy metals versus rock powders. You might notice that we use it in a number of our mineral products as well as multivitamins because of that property. It also contains about 30% elemental calcium. Calcium citrate's only about 21%. And calcium carbonate has more, but again, that can be offset by bioavailability and by the availability of some magnesium and trace minerals in here. If by adding vitamin D, there's a proven synergy for bone mineralization. But I really like the low heavy metals, and that gram per gram, it contains almost 50% more elemental calcium than calcium citrate. Now here's a study showing it improves walking distance over taking glucosamine or other substances. So it actually has some benefits as a calcium. So it's a multi-mineral complex. This is a naturally occurring 1 gram of calcium and 80 milligrams of magnesium. The magnesium is not added. That's naturally in here. And it also contains those trace minerals. This is actually the one that we use in our house and I give to my family for a calcium source. Now here's the ingredient, or here's the products in which we use the Aquamin red mineral algae as a source of calcium on the right, or as a base because of its role in joint and walking distance, joint health and walking distance on the left. So you can see this has been formulated in a number of our multivitamins. And a lot of that is because you can make a smaller pill when you have 30% calcium and a few percent magnesium. That can be label claims versus 21% on calcium citrate. And the lower heavy metals is a great bonus for us as well. Eggshell membranes, unique matrix. It contains natural chondroitin, glucosamine, hyaluronic acid, collagen, GAGs, and other proteins. It supports normal joint mobility in 7 to 10 days and supports healthy articular tissue. That articular cartilage requires chondroitin sulfate for that. So there are clinical studies on that. It's one of the few products where we're making a claim with a timeline on it. And we also have another trademark ingredient called UC2. And it's undenatured type 2 collagen. What does that mean? Undenatured means it is not hydrolyzed. You cannot digest this. So why take it? Well, there is a reason for taking it, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Cartilage, again, provides flexibility and support to joints and connective tissues. Type 2 collagen is the principal structural protein in cartilage that helps with strength and toughness. It has not been denatured by enzymes, heat, or acids. Denaturing can also reduce the molecular weight of hyaluronic acid, where it's not the same compound. It's fractions or segments or fragments. It's used for mild discomfort from occasional pain and a healthy immune response to normal stresses. So here's how it works in the blue down here. The process of inducing oral tolerance to an antigen, to something that you're allergic to, is known as oral tolerization and is the basis for intervening with UC2. If any of you have heard in the news where people are getting these microscopic amounts of peanuts to get over an allergy to peanuts or milk, where they're giving tiny, tiny, tiny amounts orally to try to trigger the body to recognize and reduce its reaction to it, that's called oral tolerization. And that's what the principle is of taking an undenatured type 2 collagen. It is a low dose. It is not providing collagen to make cartilage or other connective tissues. It is simply making the body recognize that it does not have to react so strongly to small amounts of type 2 collagen that breaks down in the joint fluids from the articular cartilage during normal wear and tear. It doesn't overreact to that and try to immobilize or otherwise have an over-aggressive immune response to that debris. So 140 milligram capsule, a small capsule per day at bedtime on an empty stomach is all you need. One very small capsule. We've filled the capsule with the Aquamin, so you're getting a little calcium and a tiny bit of magnesium with it and some trace minerals as a filler. But the type 2 collagen, 40 milligrams, is really all you need. Now we've combined that in this other formula, the UC2 Advanced Joint Relief, which is a newer formula. Again, we've included hyaluronic acid and boron because they do have roles in joint health, as well as bone health. Boron has a role in bone health as well. And there's some Aquamin in there as well. Now, we also know that various herbs, antioxidants, and free radical fighters can help maintain healthy, normal immune and inflammatory responses in our joints. So one of our approaches, this is a product I take twice a day, the D-Flame, for occasional minor aches and pains due to overexertion, helping maintain the normal balance, mediators that support healthy joint and cardiovascular function. We have the holy basil, turmeric, ginger, green tea, boswellia, bromelain, skullcap, resveratrol, and berberine. This we actually developed as a superior alternative to a competitive product that was very popular. And this one was actually gentler on the stomach than the other product as well as being vegetarian when the other one at that time was not. So what are the ingredients in there? Turmeric is known for its ingredient curcumin. We've discussed that previously. Holy basil helps us adapt to stress and balance various processes in the body. Boswellia, which is a tree resin, frankincense, is an herb that helps with immune response to biological stresses. Ginger, of course, responds to biological stress and digestive discomfort on an occasional basis. Green tea has anti-aging polyphenols. EGCG is the best known and perhaps the strongest. Bicol skullcaps have flavonoids that help maintain healthy responses. Resveratrol, it's a free radical fighter that's in red grapes, peanuts, mulberries. You'll get it in red wine. Widely used for vascular and immune support. Protects collagen through its free radical fighting. Here's a combination of turmeric and bromelain. They're both in the D-flame, but here's another version of it that's simpler and has more of those ingredients. The curcuminoids in turmeric can help support enzymes that are necessary and help us deal with stresses to the body, both physical and otherwise. The pineapple, the bromelain enzyme, can help with a normal immune response. And lastly, we have some topicals for the joint areas. We do not make functional claims on these other than skin health, but a soothing lotion with glucosamine, MSM, and arnica. It's a liposomal lotion. So liposomes are similar to the layers of the skin and compatible with skin membranes. So they're used to help penetrate into the skin. So it's getting glucosamine, MSM, and arnica to nourish the skin. Liposomes can moisturize the barrier layers of the skin and allow them to function more effectively. We also have Now Solutions Joint and Muscle Cream. So it's designed to use on skin surrounding active joints and muscles, and it contains glucosamine, boswellia, capsaicin from peppers, and methyl salicylate. So they're used for skin properties and conditioning areas around joints and muscles. And it's paraben-free, of course. Then lastly, we have the MSM Healthy Skin, 15% MSM. Now, we don't typically tell you percentages of active ingredients in our skincare products because in most cases, their functionality depends on the matrix they're delivered in rather than a dosing. It's not like that 15% represents you take that much and you don't have to take so much orally, or there's no direct correlation there. And what percentage works really depends on what it's blended with and how well it penetrates and other things. So percentages is something you will rarely see on our personal care labels unless there is some functional reason to use a certain percentage based on studies where we know that works. For example, in our CoQ10 skincare products, if you knew the percentage of CoQ10, it wouldn't help you know how well it absorbs or how well it functions. In this case, the 15% MSM does have a role because of its role in connective tissues of the skin and cartilage. So we have a base of almond oil and, again, liposomal technology for absorption. And this one does contain a fish protein, a marine collagen, which also helps with healthy skin. So it is not a vegan-friendly product. Now, none of our products are tested on animals, including the personal care products, but they're not all vegetarian. So there's other things to consider other than a healthy diet. Regular exercise to maintain healthy muscle mass and function, as well as bone density and joint health, is something that everyone should be doing. It's necessary to maintain healthy joint function, and it's also important to maintain at least, or in some cases, increase protein intake as we age to support lean muscle mass and collagen maintenance. Protein might not be absorbed as well if digestion's not as good, and people don't tend to eat as regularly or as well balanced as they age. And we'll often see that with people who have lost a mate and they're living alone, or they're living in an institution and that they're not provided all their meals, or they would like to graze during the day instead of eating meals. A lot of times their quality of protein and quantity of protein they're getting might decline as they age for various reasons like that. So it's encouraged that people should get it's 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which means a 150-pound adult should be eating about 70 grams, roughly 25 grams of protein at each meal. And if you think an egg's got 6 grams of protein, eating 2 or 3 eggs ain't enough. You need a certain amount of protein at every meal to maintain your muscle mass, and that will help with bone density and joint health as well. And exercise is going to stimulate that as well as the proteins. So that's the end of the presentation, Joint Health, Life, and Motion. And we're going to turn this back to Sue.